Good evening. This is Corey Dion with the Painted Peacock, and I'm going to show you this evening a very large painting that took me about 5 hours to do. This is a repurposed canvas. It used to have a giant animated Batman on it, and decided to change it up a bit. I've been asked to do the Master Sword from Zelda, Breath of the Wild specifically. I went on the trusty old internet and found about 6 images that I liked of various forest scenes and of the Master Sword, and just kind of picked components that I liked the most. One of the things I liked about several images was kind of this misty look that we had in the background. So, utilizing colors like aqua and mint green and white, and so much water, I was able to get that nice misty background. Just doing some trees and utilizing a sponge to get those tiny leaves in the background. I decided that I wanted a willow type something here in the corner, and so I pretended that I knew how to do one. It more or less works. I'm not too overly worried about it looking a little strange because I'm going to put trees in front of it in the foreground. This painting did take me 2 days to complete and about a total of 5 hours. I decided to move down to the plinth where our Master Sword is going to be. I am literally just putting paint on the canvas in various shapes and praying that it goes well. I usually like to use 3 colors whenever I'm doing a surface. I start with my middle tones, then I add my shadows, and then I add my highlights. I wanted a bright green in the center here because that's where I have light shining down. Where I have this softer imagery in the back, I just do color washes. I enjoy painting wet on wet, meaning that I usually do not let my paints dry between changing colors so that the blending is very easy. Whenever I'm working, I like to play this game called Where is Whatever I'm Looking For. I lost my towel and various brushes and paints only about 1,000 times. If it was a drinking game, you'd be dead. But in this little bit of light, I only put paint on one half of the brush and was water on the other. So that way you could see my colors that were shining through the background. By painting the entire sword white initially, I wasn't having to fight with colors bleeding through the back into the front. Adding a little bit of magic, if you would. Just a little white paint and then tapping it with my finger to smear it out. Anytime the camera moves, that's one of my dogs just wandering on the couch. That's my very professional ring light is sitting upon. I was having quite a time trying to get the blade slender enough, but I didn't want to outline it in black because it wouldn't have fit the cohesivity of the entire piece. Again, going in with that shadow, and then I'll go in with highlights. One of the pictures I found had a series of growths on the rocks. I really liked how it looked, and so took a small brush and just dabbed. One of the things that we as people have a tendency to do is create patterns. And that's not something I necessarily wanted, so I kept having to remind myself to not do patterns. Just some very delicate white flowers here. A little bit of shrubbery. Whenever I'd make an error, I'd just take a towel and wipe it off. Again, extending those little growths here in my foreground. And this is where I'm very brave and be Bob Ross and put a happy little tree in the corner. I wanted the center of the picture to be the brightest, and so even though this is close to the viewer, if you would, I've done it in dark browns. Now the brown wasn't very cohesive with the rest of the image, so I actually added a great deal of green into the brown. I was very pleased with the effect. Again, I went with my middle color, the dark color, and that highlight. With these leaves, I just did single strokes with a broad brush, pushing down and then lifting up to get that tapered effect. Again, a little more shrubbery. I put little mushrooms here that promptly got covered up by other details, but that's okay because they looked kind of crappy. Working on the other side here, I knew I wanted a great big tree to pull across a lot of my imagery in the back so that it really creates depth. It turned out lovely, but I was having a small heart attack in the meanwhile. Because this tree is even more in the foreground, I did add a lot of black. Unfortunately, the angle in this video is giving us a lot of glare on that wet paint. So mostly it looks white. Just a little bit of shrubbery here. Put some dark leaves. I'm going to try again with these little mushrooms. Oh, they're darling. And our final touch is the silent princess flower. And we're done. This piece is approximately 3 feet by 4 feet and took a total of 5 hours to do. I'm very pleased with it. Thank you for joining me. Have a pleasant evening.